So after that great and long introduction, I just got to ask you, Melissa, is there anything that you cannot do?
Frown. Quite literally, I cannot frown since I do not feel the bottom half of my face anymore. So it just doesn't work out.
And that's a very interesting thing you said, and we are gonna really get right into that when we talk about it. But it's just so great. I like when what I like when I have my guests because I just like to come in and I like to explain how we met. And the majority of people I've had on this show up to this point have been people I've had a personal relationship. But you and I just ran across you on Threads, and you were pretty much just like, "Yo, I'm a podcaster, but I think it'll be pretty good to get interviewed." And I saw that, and I'm like, you know what? That's good energy coming from there. Like I was like, let me check her out. Checked out your podcast, listened to a couple episodes, and I was like, you know what? I would dang sure like to have her on my show based upon her story. So I just think it's funny how we met just based on threads. And threads has got brought me a lot of good relationships with just genuine people, I would say. But I'm glad you posted that day, and I'm glad we were able to connect.
Same, same. I feel like I really like Threads, first of all, right? Just because it's new, like I feel like it hasn't gotten capitalized by people trying to like put out ads and all this other, I don't want to say nonsense because consumerism is a thing, but all this other like noise, if you will. So I'm really grateful that I'm here. I'm grateful that you found my I guess my SOS, my hey, like I think I'm supposed to be doing this. Halfway through my second season right now, and I really was thinking to myself, well, what else should I be doing to grow my actual podcast? Like I feel like I should be talking to other podcasters. I think I'm supposed to interview. Do I wait for someone to come and ask me? I don't know how popular I am yet. So yeah, I'm just grateful to be here, and I'm glad that we made the connection. You're my new internet long distance friend, peer.
Mhm. No, you're said it 100%. And it's funny because I'm not usually one that I've just started kind of, and I wouldn't say liking social media, tolerating it and using it, for good and to put some good things out there with so much divisiveness and all this bad stuff going on these days. So when I see stuff like that and just me having my platform and being fairly new too, I have no problem reaching out to people and be like, hey, yo, like your show, like your channel. I really like what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. If we can connect in the future, that's great because closed mouths don't get fed. You know what I mean? So like you had that and you said that for that opportunity and it brought about this what's going to be a great interview. But mostly with people being able to know your story and somebody being like, you know what, let me follow her some more. She's the type of person I need in my life, or she's the type of person I want to hear about on a weekly basis and root for her. So you're in the right space because you're doing the right things. And I'm just glad we connected.
No, for sure. And I I really love social media. Like I've always loved social media. I grew up kind of like in the way, or I became a teenager in the wake of social media. So I can remember my freshman year of high school. It was 2005, and I remember this girl sitting next to me, and I was in a keyboarding class. It was keyboarding 101, and she was like, "Do you have MySpace?" And I can remember being like, "What's that?" And she was like, it's like where you talk to your friends and you've got like their pictures and stuff. And I was like, I don't get it. Why don't you just call them? Like that's so how like it just wasn't a thing. And she showed it to me. She's like, I'm going to show you. And this is before schools had proxies or anything because it just wasn't a thing. So she showed it to me, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. And I think I was just hooked. And from there, I just used to want to be a journalist. So I did like newspaper and yearbook in high school. And then I did web designing classes before like web designing was cool. So when social media really started to like pop off, I was like, oh, I like this way of creation. But yeah, here we are. I do think that it gets a little bit now because, like I said, everyone is a creator now, and that's awesome. But everyone's trying to sell you something, so it's less about the creativity and more about consumerism, which makes it a little sad. But
I hear you 100%. And I think the funny thing is I have a lot of interesting people on here. Everybody comes in with their own story. Everybody comes in with some really good stuff that can bring value to the listeners. But you're a very special one because from what I know, you're my very first felon that I've had on here. Um, I don't know anybody. I'm not sure. Can't say that 100% equivocally because somebody might have some stuff pending. I don't know, whatever. But I can honestly say that. How does that feel for you to be the first one to be the
you know
first felon on my show?
You know what? It wouldn't be the first time that I'm a first at something. I was the first in my family to be a felon. I'm the first on your show to be a felon. Um, and you know what? You just might be surprised because if I didn't tell people that I was a felon, no one would suggest, like, no one would even expect for it to be that, right? So maybe you do know someone, or maybe someone else has been in the show and they're a secret felon.
I was gonna say that's why I was like, hold on, I don't want to just give her the prize and the trophy, and I don't really know. And then the former guest be like, hey man, I'm really the first person that was. If you can get that trophy back and send it my way, I'd really appreciate that. But I say that as not as disrespect because when you like I said, when I ran across you on Threads and then I went and listened to your podcast, the very first episode, I'm listening and I just within the first 10 or 15 minutes, I'm like, I had to go back and look at my phone because I was like, this can't be the first episode. I was like, she's way down in the weeds on this, and I'm like, hold on. So like, I had to look at my phone and go like, dang, this is the first episode, and she's telling us all this stuff. So, as we talk about that, you went through a lot of adversity very early on, and for the people that are going to hear this and want to know more about it, go listen to her show, Hard Wig, Soft Life. Very first episode. You probably won't even need to listen anymore. You'd be like, hold on, I'm all in. I'm good. Um, Talk to me a little bit about going through all that stuff early in your life and getting to the point that you are now. Like, what was that like, and what was that experience?
Who I think it's one of those situations where feel you don't know that you're going through something that's very traumatic because you're in it, and like you said, you're kind of like in the weeds with it. It's something that, hindsight vision is what brings clarity to, and you go, oh my gosh, that's a lot. But for me, because I've always had to be a tough person in my family, or even not even just tough, but sometimes be the comedic relief too. The way that I grew up, going into all of those early experiences in my early 20s, um, I guess you could say I was already kind of hardened by that point. Um, and I don't think that it really hit me until I hit like my mid to late 20s. And that's when I started really kind of like getting depressed. And I didn't even know that I was depressed. So, yeah, I don't think it hit me. I don't think I knew that I knew I was going through a lot, but I didn't know that it was an overwhelming amount of things to be going through, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. And you said something before this, but when I made the joke about being a felon, and you're like, the majority of people, if I told them that, or if they didn't know that about me, they would never guess that about me. And I think that also speaks to just our system in the United States and exactly what follows you and what doesn't, based upon what mistakes or transgressions you've made in your life. But you say it with a sense of like confidence and a sense of freedom because it makes up your story. What gives you that, the free will to say that and to own it like that?
So the very first time when it first happened, you carry this sense of shame, right? So my parents both come from a third world country, and my mom raised me, and my mother is the first person to remind you why she didn't come to this country. My mom used to say, Melissa, I didn't come to this country for you to be lazy. I didn't come here for you to be a loser. I didn't come. So the list goes on and on and on. When your parents are from somewhere else, like why they didn't come to this country for. And so I feel like when it happened to me and I became a felon and I'm going through all of this process, I carried a sense of guilt and a sense of shame because I was like, I embarrassed my parents. I embarrassed myself, and I embarrassed my mother, who has, given everything to me, to make sure that I would be okay. And the first time that I really realized that I shouldn't really be ashamed, because this is a part of my story, just like a quick backtrack on my career. I used to be a human resource generalist and a coordinator before. So I was an HR coordinator, and then I became a generalist at the end of my career. And so I used to really connect with my staff members in any organization that I worked in, and I would want them to feel comfortable with talking to me. And so one day, one of the staff members came in at this job that I worked in, and she was crying, and she was like, "Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe I have to go and tell the director that I have a DUI and it's a misdemeanor." And so I told her, "Shut the door to my office, come on in." And I told her, "I'm going to tell you something about myself that other people don't know. I'm actually a felon. I had a DUI with serious bodily injury. I hurt myself, I hurt someone else." And I told her my entire story. And I could just see that she felt this sense of relief. when she talked to me, because she thought that she really thought like, oh, I'm going to lose my job today. Um, I don't know what I'm going to do. And so just sharing that story with her and seeing how it brightened her mood made me realize you should share more, because sometimes your own life or things that you feel like is not a big deal because you're going through it and trying to overcome it, it may be someone else's survival guide. And so that's something that I hold close to my chest now.
Thank you for sharing. Like I said, since listening to that first episode, I was like, no, I gotta have her on because there aren't this many people that are vulnerable. And what I always say as a coach and just as a mentor, I'm like, if you're going through something, or if you're afraid to ask a question, or to ask a question, or say what you're going through to somebody, there's 5 or 10 more people around you that are going through the same thing or have been through the same thing. So while you're a little bit ashamed or a little bit afraid, and it's just like when you're in a room, and I've been in the rooms with young men, and you ask them a question about, who's ever been afraid, and nobody raises their hand because they're like, hold on, I ain't gonna be the only one that raises my hand. But once this one hand goes up, all these other hands start going up, and you're like, good, okay. It usually just takes one person. And so I think it was interesting, even you being in that HR position, where you were like, yo, like, I'm a felon, yo, come in, let's do some bad stuff together. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding.
And everything.
But with that, you gave her a safe space, and a sense of where things were safe, where she's about to have to go probably tell one of the biggest decisions of her life to her boss, where she's afraid of what might happen going forward.
Mhm.
And what I got from your very first episode too, also, like, you're giving us all this game on like what exactly happens when you become, or when you get labeled as a felon or take that title. And it was a lot of stuff that I didn't know. So, like, what was probably the most surprising thing about what happens even after that, that kind of, shook you to the core, like made it hard for you to move forward in the world?
I feel like you're stripped of your humanity almost. You know, I was a firm believer before, and I still am a firm believer of like, hey, for every cause there is an effect, and for every action there's a consequence. And so I don't think that, I shouldn't have had any consequences. Like, I'm the person that decided to get behind my wheel of my car, and drive, and I hurt myself and someone else. So ultimately, I understand completely, like, there's a due process, and I needed to deal with the consequences. However, when you are a felon, the world no longer looks at you like you're a human. Like, it's like your humanity is stripped. And so when I started probation and I had a probation officer, they don't look at you as Melissa, the individual. They look at you as Melissa, the criminal, Melissa, my offender, the offender that comes and sees me every month. And going into that probation officer office once a month was the most, like, it was just soul crushing. It would ruin my whole day. I remember I would get out of work and I would have to go to this office, and you're just surrounded. You're in a room, in a waiting room, and everyone there is a felon. You don't know what other people's crimes are. Sometimes you're actually like with people who are child molesters. Like, you have no idea what any of these people have done, and you're just all lumped into this one room where you have to wait, and then you go see your probation officer, and they work for the government essentially, and they're underpaid, they're overworked, they don't want to be there, they don't want to talk to you, and they just don't, and they see everyone, so they don't treat you like you're human. So I think that was the one, like, daunting, like, jarring thing about this whole thing.
Thank you for that. And I don't want to sit here and harp on all the bad stuff, but
Oh,
because you've been like, and I think that's the important part of it. It's like that's what you did in that moment for those couple of seconds that your judgment wasn't the best, and it doesn't describe you or your life path moving forward. But I just think you wear it like a badge of honor, and that's what I wanted to tell you. And I appreciate you for talking about that, because you have some people that don't tell their story while they're in it. They just tell their story at the end when they've made it to the mountaintop, and then they let people know. But you're letting people know along this journey, and for what you've done, because it's going to help them heal. So I definitely appreciate you. And so, moving on to better and brighter topics instead of talking about that all the time. And so you start this podcast. What made you want to start it?
ooh, that's a great question. Um, so it didn't come all at once. So you know how you just said, hey, people like share their story once they're kind of out of that situation. And so I used to always say, I think I want to be like a motivational speaker or something. I think I want to like tell people what has happened to me but I can only do it once I have reached a point of triumph. I can't do it before then, because then what's the point? Like, what am I motivating someone toward? And so I used to think that very often. And then my life started changing for the better. And you just are kind of present in that. And you don't think about stuff like that anymore. You're just thinking about building and growing. And I I started a career as a real estate agent in 2023. And my husband and I had met in 2021. So 2022 time is when I decided to switch careers and start concentrating on real estate. And then we moved in together. And although real estate has been cool, I don't think that it's my passion. And I'm always leaning more toward the creative. And so I started getting to a point where I was telling people around me the things that I had gone through, and they would say, wow, like, I can't believe that you've gone through all of those things and you've come out almost unscathed, really. And so that's when I started toying with the idea of, like, you know what? I think I'm going to start a podcast. And I told my husband, and he was 100% supportive. But I do want to tell you a funny fact about me and podcasting. So I used to want to be a journalist all through high school. I did all written stuff at the time. I did newspaper, I did yearbook. I even did a little bit of web design. And later on, I had a friend, like years later, I had a friend who said, hey, we're going to do this. It's kind of like this radio show. And this was back in 2014. And I said, okay, like a radio show. Cool. Like, what radio station is it going to be on? And he was like, no, no, no. It's like the radio, but on the internet. What he was talking about was a podcast, but this was so far ahead that podcast didn't have a name. And I'm like, I don't get it. So we go to the studio and we record all this stuff. And every week we would put it out and we would just talk about different things locally. And it's so funny because now I know that I was actually on a podcast before podcasts were a thing. But yeah, like, I say all that to say, I guess I've been on a podcast before, but that is kind of how I ended up here. I went through all the things in my life and was like, I think I want to tell my story. I don't know how. You know what? I think that the best thing that I can do is just start a podcast, and here we are.
That's so funny. So you're supposed to be on a podcast before a podcast was podcast.
Yeah, it was crazy too, because it was like in this area called Clearwater, which is about like 40 minutes away from where I lived at the time. And I didn't have a car, so my friend used to come pick me up. We'd go over there, and they had the whole thing set up. And I'm like, yeah, like, I'm on a radio on the internet. Oh, yeah.
I think it's interesting because you say that and you're like, hey, I got to figure out a way to tell my story. But more so than that, you start and you're like, hey, I think this podcast is the easiest way for me to tell my story, or the most efficient way for me to tell my story. You do that, you get a couple episodes in, and you're like, I don't think I'm going in the right direction. You decide to do a whole rebrand after 3 episodes. So you build up all this confidence. You build up, okay, I got this idea, I got this equipment, I'm moving, I'm forging forward. And then you do a rebrand 3 episodes in. And I say that because you have some people that'll be like, all right, let me at least get 5, 10, 15, 25 episodes in and do it. But you did it pretty early. Can you talk about why you decided or why you felt like you needed that rebrand for your podcast?
The panic set in. The panic set in, and honestly, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you, Drew. So I actually did not have a rebrand in mind after that third episode. I actually was gonna quit. So I did the first episode, and I prepared a lot before the first episode. So the first episode dropped in November, and in August, I had already started the trademarking process for the name of my podcast, which we are at the tail end of it. So I'm very excited. But in August of 2024 is when I started the trademarking process. And then I do my own graphics. And, like, honestly, the only thing that I didn't do at this point was my own photo shoot, because I physically could not hold the camera and take the pictures myself. I'm a bit of a control freak. So when I started this, I started my own promotion. I did my own trademarking with no legal representation. I did my own graphics, like the whole nine, to include, I was recording myself, was filming it myself, and I was editing it myself. Now, I am not a master editor. I have no idea what I'm doing at this point, but I'm doing it. So the first episode comes out, and I get some pretty good reviews on it from my peers and people around me. And the numbers for me were impressive. I think that first episode got like 100 listens. So I'm like, okay, I can do this. And then I do the second one. And then I start to get burnt out. I start to get tired, because I have so many other things going on in my life. I'm a real estate agent, and at that time, I had enough clients to keep me busy. I'm a wife, so I've got to keep up around the house as well. And then not only all of those things, but now I'm trying to do a podcast, and I am trying to wear all of the hats in the podcast. So what I will say is that this has been a labor of love, but this is where your art becomes a mirror of you, right? And the things that you need to fix within yourself. And so it is absolutely impossible to do everything at one time. And so I actually was going to quit. Like, and my give up game is very strong. I am very good at beginning a project and then abandoning said project. And that was what I was going to do until, so I got invited in February to be a part of this panel called Creators Escape. Shout out to my friend Justin Story. He's an amazing digital storyteller, but he put together this event and invited me on as a panelist, and everyone there was a creative, and they were creatives on another level. These were people that are like, I don't know, like famous. And I'm like Melissa from Tampa. I don't even understand why I'm there. But that experience is what re-inspired me to go back and try again. And so that was in February. And from the time that I came back home, the event was in Orlando. So for the time that I got back home, which was in February, all the way until the beginning of April, I dedicated my time to looking for a production crew, looking for my guests, which my guests were basically the people that were my peer panelists, and filming and getting everything together, and then trying to put it back out in April. So I would say the rebrand was more of, it was a growth coming from Melissa, and I got into therapy at that same time, because I was like, there's got to be a reason why I'm trying to do all these things at one time. That's crazy. So, I mean, obviously not crazy. That's a bad word to use, but it doesn't make sense. So why am I like this, and how can I fix it, and how can I ultimately become better?
Mm. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for not quitting, because you definitely have a great, great product. And it's funny how you said a couple things there that I want to dive into, but you said you put out that first episode and the response you got from your people were great, and the listens you got were I forgot what the word you used, but you said, for you they were great. And I think that is a perfect thing to talk about, because we all have this dream or this idea that we're going to start something, we're going to do a podcast, we're going to release something, and we're going to be like, all right, I needed to get 1 million views. My very first episode, like I needed to crush it, and it's great. But we forget that there's that learning curve. Like, dude, this is your first one. Like,
Mhm.
give yourself some grace, build on it, do some things better. Like, it's your first time even turning on the camera. I remember you talked about, like, you're like, hey, this is my first one. Like, this is my first one. I'm a little bit nervous, but let's go. Like, you could hear it, you know what I mean? Like, you can feel it, but you got to lean into that, because it's the thing that's going to help you get through it. But I just thought it was so awesome you said that, because shoot, before you get to 1 million, you got to get one listen. Before you get to 1 million, you got to get to 100. Like, so you got to start somewhere. So I like how you said those two things. But then it's funny, because you talked about, pretty much you went to this retreat, and as you're in the middle of this kind of just unsureness of what you want to do, and I listened to the podcast where you talked about this as well on Hardwick Soft Life. I'm always going to drop it for you. But you pretty much talked about how you got refreshed and renewed from being around other creative people. I wanted to ask you about that. Are those the right words to say, that you got refreshed and renewed from being around a sense of people that are doing the exact things that you wanted to do?
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel like it's very important to surround yourself with people who are masters of, the craft. So if you want to be a creative, you should be around creatives. If you want to be an athlete, you should be around other athletes. And not only just that, you should be around people who are better than you at it, because it's going to motivate you to want to do more. And obviously, like, if someone's better than you at something, and you're around them, it typically leaves room for almost mentorship, right? Like, you start to pick up things from them and tips and tricks, and they start to share those things with you because they personally want to see you succeed as well, most of the time, right? In a perfect world, most of the time. But I was very lucky that I got invited to this Creators Escape, and I feel like I had not been in a creative environment for such a long time. So I've always wanted to do creative things. I always knew oh, I want to be like a personality. I want to be known for being me and for talking. But I really didn't have much of a story to tell when I was younger. And this was my dream, right? And then I was going through life and I'm just trying to survive. So I'm not thinking about any of that. And the times that I did try to, oh, I'm going to be a YouTuber, or, oh, I want to, sing because I do sing, or just do anything creative, I didn't have the resources or the time to do those things. Now, for the first time in my life, I have the resources and I have the time, but then it's like, well, I'm concentrating on being a realtor, and I'm concentrating on getting my business off of the ground. And so when you're hanging out with other real estate agents, like, they're awesome people, but we talk about selling houses. No one is talking about being creative. And so as a creative, I think it's very painful to not have a creative outlet. I think you need one. And I don't think I realized how painful it was to not have a creative outlet until I was in a room where not only am I convincing other people how they should spark their own creativity and how they can balance it with business and then have their creative outlet. I'm telling these people these things, and I'm obviously like not practicing it at this point. And I leave there feeling, I did feel refreshed. I did feel rejuvenated. I did feel inspired as well. But I felt a tinge of sadness. I on the way back home, I mean, I was like crying, and I'm calling my husband and I'm like, I need to be around creatives. I need to be, around, where are the Black creatives? Like, this was an out of body experience. And I think, yeah, like, you need to be around other creative people. You need to have that outlet.
Mm. You put it in a great way. You said, if you're trying to be an athlete, you need to be around athletes. You're trying to be a creative, you need to be around creatives. And one of my favorite Bible verses, Proverbs 27:17, it talks about iron sharpening iron. It talks about good sharpening good.
Yeah.
It's hard to be the best creative in the room if there are no other creatives, or it's easy, I should say, to be that. But when you put yourself up against somebody who's doing some monster stuff too, it makes you get in your creative bag a little bit more. It makes you think outside the box a little bit more. And I just watched Piece by Piece, the Lego movie with Pharrell, and there was a bunch of songs on there that I didn't even know he did. And I'm like, hold on, he did all this. But like when we talk about a creative, like Pharrell is, a person who started off in music, but he just didn't stay there. He did clothing. He did like all this other stuff. He's working with Louis Vuitton now. Like he's putting on these fashion runways. So I hear you 100% wholeheartedly when you talk about that, getting that itch scratch and getting that inspiration while you were in this kind of just limbo of exactly what you wanted to do. So I think that is totally awesome. Like, and it just seems like God sometimes just brings stuff that's right on time. It just brings people into our life at that exact moment that we need them. And so I feel like you have my script in front of you because you're talking about mentors, and mentors is the next thing I was going to talk about. Um, who are some of the people who've popped up in your life as a mentor and kind of helped you get to this point, and just kind of even helped you do things when you were scared or when you were unsure?
I'm going to be honest. So for the longest, like, I used to run away from this question, because people often ask you, like, who do you want to, or who have you wanted to emulate, or who has inspired you? And for a long time, I really didn't have much of an answer. I just had a why, and my why was my younger brother. I think that throughout this journey, though, I have met a lot of really amazing women who have taken me on as a mentee. And some of these people are people that I've gotten the chance to actually interview. So one of them, her name is Pastor Tikoa Pori, and she is amazing. She's actually, I met her at Creators Escape, and she was the pastor there that like led us in prayer. And when I say like this experience, and I think Justin's going to do more, I hope he does, but this experience was like an out of body experience almost. There was a lot of prayer in the room. And she was just magnificent. Like, I saw her and was like, I want to be like her. Like, she came with her husband. She has two beautiful children. You can tell that she's a woman who walks in her purpose. And I admire that so much. And so I'm able to, call on her when I have any questions, because I feel like I'm just now starting to find my voice and my purpose. But she is someone that I hold in a high regard.
I appreciate you saying that and being honest about it. Like, because I think there are some people, and it's funny. I have a guy who I call a mentor. He was actually my ninth grade teacher, and we still talk a lot. And anytime I go back to Denver, I go by and see him. But even he doesn't like me calling him a mentor, me saying that he's my mentor. So there's kind of, I think it's depending on who you are. But I also think sometimes people feel a little bit of pressure when they hear it, because it's like, it's a step up or a level up, but it's also like, yeah, I have some people around me that, are surrounding me and are helping me get to where I want to get to, or are people I want to get to, or people that I want to get at a level of where they're at. But also, I think it's one of those things where people are like, because it's two things. Sometimes there are mentors that find you, and sometimes you need to go out there and find mentors. And I
Mhm.
put those in quotation marks, but I mean influences. I mean somebody that you can look at and say, yo, who's been through a similar path than you, who's had the hardships that you've had, or just who's built something, and just that their body of work is something that you really respect and understand, or that person is just great at being able to connect with you. Like there's all these different things that go into that, but I say that just because I played sports and I had coaches and teachers around me all the time. I had people that were checking on me outside of my dad. So for me, mentor holds a special word. And I talk to young people about just having one, or having someone that can be that kind of mentor figure who they can go to when they're in a bind or when they have a question. Because sometimes those people aren't always mom and dad. Those people aren't always your best friend or your husband or your wife. Like you kind of need these people to kind of help push you along, or to challenge you, to ask you challenging questions.
For
And
sure.
that's one reason, and that's one thing my mentors do. They'll ask me, "Hey, what are you doing right now? You haven't you don't have anything coming down the chute." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm kind of just nah, you need to be doing something." And it's that kind of push that kind of puts you on the right path.
No, for sure. You need that accountability for sure. I think I think it's very fortunate, like when someone does have a mentor, right? Because I don't, like I said, I didn't grow up. Love my mother, like I really do, and I love her, and I think that she did the best that she could with the resources that she had. But I do know that, like from a young age, I was like, I don't. This is not exactly what I want to be like. I don't know what I want to be like, but I know that this isn't it. And so I think that if you should look for mentors wherever you can, along the way of your journey. And then I do think that it's important to have a why. If you are a person that is just muddling through and figuring it out, such as myself, I've always said, like, oh, I was just kind of like muddling through and just figuring things out as they came about. Um, I had a very significant why. And I think that if you don't have a person readily available, to be your mentor, or to answer those really tough questions for you, then you need to be very definite in what your why is. And there is a lot of pressure with that word mentor. I've come to the age now where I'm in my mid 30s, and I have young women coming to me asking me questions and saying, oh, I think you'd be a great mentor. And I'm like, I tell my husband all the time, I'm like, me? Like, I'm trying to get my life together. What are you talking about? But it is a responsibility that, although I make jokes about it here and there, like I don't think I'm fit to be a mentor. It is something that I guess I don't take lightly. But it is a pressure filled word. You know, you're like, damn, I don't want to mess anybody up. I do want to give the best advice and help that I can. But yeah,
And that's 100%. I feel you on that. Like you said, it seems like there's some pressure that comes with the word, but like I'm also at that time where, or at that age where I've started getting texts or somebody being like, yeah, thanks, big bro. I'm sending happy birthdays to people that I know, and they're like, hey, thanks, big bro. And I'm like, dang,
yeah,
I done graduated already. I'm at the unk status, and I'm
yes.
oh my god! But it's just funny because I go by Uncle Drew. I have 11 nieces and nephews, so it's all good. But it's just funny because that flip switches,
Hmm.
and where you're kind of just like, no, I'm out here. I think I'm younger than I am sometimes, but you're
Same.
out here, you're going through life, and all these things are happening, but you have people that are watching you. And that's
Mhm.
what I try to tell people. Like, you walk into a room and you're focused and you're just like beeline into some place. You're like, yeah, I'm just here, just laying low, going here. But you have somebody that's looking at you and they're like, I wonder who that is. Damn, I like how she's moving. She's moving with purpose. She's moving like she's somebody important, like she got somewhere to be. Like, and that's what people see sometimes, and we forget that about ourselves sometimes. We're so closed in.
For
But
sure.
you said something great. You said, okay, even outside of having a mentor, having a why is a very important factor. And
Mhm.
there's a great book out there for the listeners to get their hands on called "Start with Why." I think it's by Simon Sinek, if I can remember correctly.
Okay.
And like I said, I feel like you got my dang sheet in front of you. But when we talk about therapy, we brought it up a couple times, and you've talked about it along your journey as something you needed to get into. When and why did you decide to start going to therapy?
I know that I kind of always wanted to get into therapy. Um, just because you go through life and sometimes you react a certain way or you do things a certain way. and you can't explain why. You just know that that is how you operate. And sometimes it's not always, I don't want to use the word normal, because what is normal, right? But sometimes it's not always the most like politically correct. You're just kind of like, oh, I don't know why I reacted in that way, but I just did. And so I knew for a while that I wanted to do therapy, but I did not have the resources. And the last time that I had been in therapy, I was a kid. My parents gotten divorced, and I had a counselor slash therapist for about a year or two, and that helped me sort out my feelings. So I always knew, okay, well, I had enough of resources and enough of a toolbox, rather, as a kid, to get me through a certain point. But now I'm an adult and I have really big problems, and I need help like overcoming this. And so it's very funny. I was looking for about a year before I even found my therapist. And I tried to do therapy like on one of those like online services where they just match you with someone. And I think I had one or two sessions, and I was like, yeah, no, this is not the person for me. Like I told you guys, my give up game is very strong. I'm very quick to like, nah, I'm good, love, enjoy. This is not for me. But um, I was looking for someone in particular. I knew that the person that I was going to have as a therapist needed to be a woman, needed to be a woman of color, needed to be just certain things that had a criteria. And I met her at Creators Escape, believe it or not. I feel like I met everybody at Creators Escape, but I met her at Creators Escape. She was also on the panel with me. And yeah, she asked me, oh, what do you do? And I said, oh, I'm kind of a podcaster at this point. I only had like 3 episodes under my belt. So I'm like, I'm kind of a podcaster. And I said, what do you do? And she says, I'm a therapist. And I go, oh, you my therapist. Like, you're my therapist now. And she's like, oh, am I? I'm like, yeah, yeah. Like we go together now, like real bad. Like you're my therapist. Like I need that. And that's how, so I ended up starting therapy, but I already knew that I wanted, and then obviously like my experience at Creators Escape, like I told you, like I broke down in tears afterwards. I felt like I wasn't being true to myself. I felt like I had imposter syndrome. I had a lot of feelings, and I'm not necessarily a feeling kind of person, but I was having a lot of feelings, and I'm like, okay, this is something I've been wanting to do. I already met someone. In the next few days, I'm going to give her a call and I'm going to set up my first session. And the rest is history, because I've been seeing, her name is Dr. Marilyn Shaw. She's amazing, but I have been seeing her since then.
Thank you for sharing. And it's so funny because when I try to talk to people about therapy, and I've been going the last couple weeks and just got involved this year, back involved this year, therapy is just like dating. Like you're going to people, or you're searching for people, you're looking at pictures, you're looking at resumes, and you're like, and it kind of the pool is smaller, I would say. Like you said, you wanted a woman of color. Like, and we know that there are very few and far between there. But like I said, God put somebody who's right next to you on the panel, and you're like, you're my therapist now. Hey, we go together. We're like this now. But no, but your therapy journey is just, it's interesting because you said you went as a kid, from your parents' divorce, and then you said you knew you wanted to get back into it. And it's funny because therapy, it costs money. Well, as everybody knows, in most cases. But most people don't look at it as a wellness thing, or they look at it as an expense, but they don't talk about like the benefits of it. If you go and you address the things that you're going to address, and you're better off to do your job better, to be a better wife, to have less stress and things that are on you. So how are you different slash better, through your couple, I don't know how many, through, since you've been going back to therapy? Where do the improvements show up for you?
So, okay, so in the beginning, I started going weekly. So I think the first 3 to 4 sessions, the first month, I was going once a week. And then I dialed it down to biweekly, just because I felt like, okay, I think I can handle this. But every time I have a conversation with my therapist, and I know that she probably thinks I'm absolutely unhinged because I'm very honest with her. The Lord is not finished with me yet. There's still, I'm not perfect, but she gives me advice. Like I tell her specific things that happened within that week or within those 2 weeks, and where I might have crashed out. I'm a crash out person. I didn't know that I was. I thought I was generally calm until you start to really be honest with yourself and your therapist, and they tell you, hey, this may not be the best way to handle XYZ. And you have to really you have to be open to take that advice, and you have to be open to applying that advice. Like, anybody can start therapy, they can have the conversation, but it does take that active want to use all of the tools that are being given to you. A perfect example, I have learned that I am very comfortable in conflict, much more than other people are. I am very comfortable. I can confront you at a dinner table and I will tell you off. And you know what? I'm going to continue eating my meal like nothing happened. And I'm fine. Like, even if you're upset, like, you'll be all right. I'm fine though, because I've said what I need to say. That is not how most people deal with conflict. Most people are not comfortable in conflict. So I've learned to like dial it back, or I've learned to say how I feel in the moment rather than waiting until an opportune moment and then bringing it back. I've learned to like, hey, let's deal with the feelings now. Let's not be so afraid and let's not run away. And so I do think that a lot of it is being open to wanting to be in therapy. A lot of it is being cognizant of the things that you do and being honest with your therapist, because they're not with you at all times. And then, of course, just applying the tidbits of knowledge that they give you per session. And you will start to see the benefits of it. There have been times where I'm going to crash out, I'm mad. And then I dial it back and I go, wait a minute. Marilyn told me the last time that maybe I should go about it this way. And I'm very open with people around me. Like, my husband is in therapy himself. He has his own therapist. I have my own therapist. And there are times where I tell him, okay, we're going to talk about this now because my therapist advised that I try it this way. And because I'm open about it and he's understanding, and other people who are around you, you would hope that they'll be understanding. It helps you to show up a much better you.
Mm. Excuse me, I'm just writing something over here. Do not go toe to toe with Melissa at any time.
It's crazy how comfortable I am in conflict. Like, it's not even an argument. I will tell you, hey, Drew, I don't like this, that, and the third because of this, that, and the third reason. And from now on, you're not going to do that. And moving forward, but okay, yeah, I'm just going to continue eating my spaghetti right now. Like, I hope you enjoy yours too.
It's so interesting, and I respect it 100% because we're all raised differently. We've all been in different environments. I don't know if you watched the show, but there's a show called The Bear, and it comes on FX. And you can see how fragmented their relationships were, like watching it. But then there's a episode like midway through the season where they have like a family gathering, and it's all the family there, and that is the most hectic. If you haven't watched it, put on The Bear. I don't know if you seen it.
I have. So I did not get into the third season, but I did watch season 1 and season 2. And I understood that character. I understood that character a lot. I understood the family dynamic. I come from that. And I think that that's why I'm so comfortable in certain things. It is true. It all goes back to childhood. And so when I first started therapy, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to find out why I get a little upset about this, that, and the third. I'm thinking surface level almost. And then we start having these breakthroughs, and we're breaking down to like, oh, well, when I was 10, this happened to me. Or when I was 15, this was the first time. Oh, this is why I react this way to X, Y, and Z. But yes, The Bear, brilliantly done, by the way. But that episode it was brilliantly made the way that they did it. I mean, I have no words other than that, but I definitely identified with it.
Okay, so with you being on this show, you have the trophy for being the first felon, and now you have the trophy for being the first level 1 crash out on the show on Too Good to Be Drew. So I'm gonna ask you right now: are there any other awards that you would like to claim before we continue?
Most crooked smile. I'll take that one. Because my lip drags a little bit. So
All right, we'll give you that one too. Like I said, we're gonna have fun with this, and I'm just so glad you're so easy going. But there's one more thing, because you said it when you were talking about therapy, and it's one of the biggest things. And you said, okay, cool. It's cool that you're going to therapy, and it's cool that you're gonna, take the things that the therapist is telling you into consideration. But are you going to apply it? And I think that shows the most growth. That shows a lot of development, because and you're doing it, and you're taking these moments to become a better person. And I want to congratulate you for that. For first of all taking a step to go to therapy, and then from getting Melissa to where she needs to go to be a better, like I said, wife, a better entrepreneur, a better friend. Like all those things are going to help you in all your relationships. So I just wanted to hit on that. Like it's not just that you're going, it's that you're taking things with you when you leave that room, and you're making situations easier for you. And so as you're talking, I'm just smiling because I'm like, man, I hope somebody hears this and they're like, you know what? I've been BSing. I've been dragging my feet on finding a therapist or going to therapy. Like next week I start shopping, I start dating them, and whatever happens. So I appreciate you sharing, because really I think there's, and I talk about it all, not all the time, but I said this on threads. I said I know I'm starting to get bougie, because I'd be like, today with my therapist we went over.
That's part of breaking the generational trauma, right? So like I feel like coming from ethnic backgrounds too. I mean, I talked to my father about my therapy, and my dad is like, he thinks it's funny. Like he listens to me and he thinks it's useful. But he also is like, oh, I wouldn't do that. Like I'm already in my 60s. Like, why would I do that? I am who I am. And I think that it's just something that is not really understood within the generation before us,
Yeah.
and also from our backgrounds. And so I feel, and I used to always generalize and say, this rich people problems, like your therapist, like meditation, yoga. What are you talking about? Like, don't nobody have time for that? Like, this is not real. And I'm realizing now as I'm growing and I'm actually applying all of these things. I do meditate. I do yoga. I do have a therapist. I feel like much more of a balanced person. There would be no season 2 of Hardwick Soft Life if Melissa were not in therapy. Like I would have just done what I always do, which is begin a project, abandon the project, tell myself I can't do it because my give up game, like I said many times before, is very strong. And I wouldn't have explored any of this. We wouldn't be sitting here today. And so, yeah, it's real funny though, like to be like, yeah, I'm in, my therapist said, and you're like, who am I? Like, who is this person?
I've caught myself a few times being like, "Who am I becoming?" I love who I'm becoming, because like the me from 10 years ago, I've seen a therapist athletically, like for playing football and like performing, but as far as like getting there and talk about this stuff from my life and go back, okay, I was never like totally against it because I want to be a psychologist, but I was also just kind of like, sometimes we tell ourselves this. My life ain't that bad. I ain't that jacked up. Like I ain't, I ain't gonna say no mental diseases or anything, but you're like, hey, I just got, these are regular life problems. And you realize, and this is my therapist said, your normal is not somebody else's normal. Like, and I think that's one of the biggest things too. So what you saying, and I think one of the thing I try to tell people, I'm like, if you're gonna open up to anybody, why not a therapist? Somebody
Mhm.
who's trained to be able to give you the right advice or the right guidance that you need, or listen to you in a way to ask you the questions that you need to be asked to come to answers. And then at the same time, like this person can't tell anybody, as long as you're not talking about harming yourself, as long as you're not talking about harming somebody else. Whatever you say in that room, all the curse words you want to say, all the behind your back talking that you do about your sister that you want to say, you can do that in there, and it'd be a safe place for you to vent and get that stuff out. Because so many times we're holding all this stuff in until it's not the right time, and it just kind of just crumbles us. And so just get all that stuff out, y'all. Like really, like get it to somebody, and get it to like you. We got friends and stuff like that, but like our friends be telling people stuff sometimes. They say I ain't gonna tell nobody, but they go tell one person, and that one person goes tell one. But I'm saying, just hey, if you're into it, if you're thinking about it, go explore it. You will not be sorry. And I don't know if you have anything to add on top of that.
I think it's really big to really advocate, especially to our brothers and sisters of color, to go ahead and do it. And the reason why is because stress is the number one killer in life, and stress can lead to a lot of ailments and sicknesses. And a lot of times, because of our background and because of generational trauma, we are conditioned to think that our struggles are not real struggles, that, oh, that's not a real, you'll be all right. Like, you just need some prayer, or you just, take a nap, or, whatever, just anything. anything, doing anything other than therapy is typically the answer. And like I said, stress is the number one killer. And I think that if we all need to, in order to make a difference and in order to break certain generational traumas that we have and just have a better future for all of us, I think that is key, to go find somebody to talk to. So yeah, that's really all I have to add to that one.
I appreciate you saying our black and brown sisters and brothers. Like we love y'all. We want y'all to be here for as long as you possibly can, and we want you to take care of yourself. Like life is not easy. The things that are happening to us are not easy, or have happened to us are not easy. And you just you gotta heal at some point. And so that's why I talk about that older generation. And I understand that you've only gone to see a shrink or whatever it might be when there are really really big problems, but you need to address those before they become big. The little stuff adds up little by little. And so, as we hop out of therapy, and I know you said great things about your husband, you said great things about being a wife. I think it is so interesting that you guys met at a party that you did not want to go to, which is
At
usually how
all.
life goes. But that led to a great marriage and also just a great podcast, Dave. Would you like to go into that story and tell us a little bit about you meeting your husband and everything that's come from that?
Absolutely. When I met Ryan, the weave that I had in my head needed to be taken out of my head expeditiously. It was rough. It was a hard wig. So not only does the title of my podcast metaphorically go along with my life, because I definitely was living a hard life before, but I was definitely rocking some hard hair when I met him. And it is at a party. We met at a party that neither one of us wanted to go to. I had a coworker who had a roommate who was throwing her birthday party like 5 minutes down the street from where I lived. And I agreed to go because it sounded nice at the time, but I really wasn't going to go on my only day off to this party to see this girl that I didn't know. And my husband is very selectively social. He does not, if he doesn't have to socialize, he won't. But he was trying to date, I guess, as an introvert. And he was like, well, the woman of my life isn't going to show up at my doorstep. So I guess I'll go to this party to see if there's anyone there, but there never is anyone there, but I'm just going to go. And so that's what happened. We ended up at this party. And yeah, I started talking to another guy. I didn't even start off talking to my husband. I started talking to another man completely. And he and I both had a common interest in Scotch. So I'm a retired Scotch whiskey drinker. I used to drink Macallan, like year 15, 21, give it to me neat, like Balvenie, all the things. I was a Scotch whiskey girl. And so we were talking about that. But the more that the guy drank, the less I liked him, which,
Mm.
there's that. And then my husband was right there and he made a joke. And I am not blind. I was like, wow, this man is very handsome. And he just said something dry humor. No one else got it but me. I laughing. And we started talking, and that was that. I showed up to that date because I had to pull out my hair, and I didn't have the resources to get my hair redone. So I showed up to that date wearing a head wrap, missing, a nail or two. Like I showed up so raggedy, and the rest is history because I mean we're married. So
He stuck with you now. Got you. I think, hey, shout out to him because I'm one of them selective socialists too. I could be cool, not seeing nobody for a good minute, go get groceries every now and then. I'll be fine, hold up in my house. But I'm glad he decided to go out that day and to meet you and to meet the love of his life. And you guys been rocking for a minute now. So I smiled when I heard that on your podcast because you tell the story perfectly. If you guys want to go hear it, check it out. Because like I said, she gave you everything in them first two episodes. I'm over here like, hold on, we got something good here.
I like to talk and I like to tell people my business. I remember being a kid, like that always in trouble. My mom used to be like, Melissa, in her way of saying, nobody asked you that. Because I would openly, like, oh, well, my mom and my dad, they do this, that, and the third. And it would be like, shh, shh, stop it. I was definitely one of those kids. So I'm glad that it pays off now.
So being one of them people that like to talk, and I think I couldn't get you out of here without talking about one of the best rappers on the face of this earth. You know him, I know him, Mr. Jay Z.
Someone.
It's one of the first things I listen to your pod. It's funny because when you talk to people or when you're listening to things, you can tell when people's energy and passion picks up. and your energy and passion very much so did that when you mentioned Jay-Z's name, and you were about to start talking about some albums and you had to pull yourself back like, hold on, stay on track on the podcast, we got somewhere to go, but you're gonna be able to do that right here. um give me your top three either Jay-Z albums or Jay-Z songs.
So I listen to You Don't Know, like it, it's a crazy amount of times that I listen to that song. You Don't Know is high up on the list. Let me see. Of course, you cannot go without goodness, PSA. PSA, that is one of my favorites as well. I listen to that one like once every few days. Let me see. I feel like I'm all over the place because I know I'm on like Blueprint, and then I went to oh my god, which one is PSA? I think it's the Black album. So I went to there, and then what other song do I like by Jay-Z? Funnily enough, this one is off of the Blueprint 3. It's actually not even on the album. I don't know why it's not on the album, but it's Jock and Jay-Z. Those are like my three favorite ones. Yeah. And there's still like I love a lot of his verses. Like the remix of Go Crazy with Jeezy. Like I like his
Mhm.
verse off of that one. I really enjoy his verse on Seen It All. I like his verse on The Devil Is a Lie with Rick Ross. I like a lot of his features for sure. Um yeah, like so Kanye West used to be my number one rapper. And then now I just enjoy Jay-Z more. And then because I feel like his songs are like affirmations for
Yeah.
me. Kanye West, I feel like his production is what brings him like kind of up there for me. But yeah, Jay-Z is my favorite rapper. My husband and I, he laughs at me all the time because he says that I listen to unk rap. Um, Ryan is always clowning me because I'm very much like I'm out here listening to like old Biggie, Rakim, Tupac, Nas, Freeway. Like this is like my daily listening. Jada Kiss, like I'm like an old head.
Ain't nothing old head and wrong about that. You listen to a lot of the same people I listen to, and to be honest, you listen to people that are lyrically sharp. Like that's what it is. Like you just, I listen to a lot of music, all types of music. When I was younger, I used to listen to down south music because I was all about the beat. And
Mhm.
then as I got older and started really listening to people like Jay Z and Nas, and I was like, oh, you gotta kind of be smart to like keep up. Like you just can't just be like double entendres and flipping
Yes.
this and the alliteration on top of this. Like you like that's the stuff you come with. And just knowing that Jay-Z's been in the game so long now, and talk about somebody who went from a rapper to being somebody who's known for a lot more other stuff too. You respect stuff like that. And so if it's unk rap, like sign me up because the Clips album dropped what last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yes. Their
And
press run has been insane. Like their press run has been amazing. I'm really loving like Malice and Pusha T's dynamic. I'm glad Malice is back. So you said something funny. So like a lot of Southern rap. My husband is like, which I when I met him, I judged him, right? I'm like, this guy looks like a mixture of Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs. Like, there's no way that we can have anything in common, right? I very much judged him. My husband was not the demographic of person that I was looking for when I thought, who I was going to marry. And here we are. But he does enjoy like Memphis rap a lot. So,
okay.
like, one day I was listening to something, it was just on shuffle. And this is like early on in our relationship, it's on shuffle. And he's like, wait, that sounds like Project Pat. And I'm like, who have you been around? What do you know about Project Pat? You didn't even look like you listen to music for real. And I went back and looked, and it was a song featuring Project Pat. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, you're right. But he likes all about like the bass. He likes the sound of it, and that like we're a Glorilla household. He likes Glorilla. And to him, that is better than say Nicki Minaj, where
Yeah.
I'm on the other side of like, no, I like the lyrics. I like the double and the triple entendres. I like hearing something different every time that I hear this song. Like this is all great, like love it, but this is even better. And so he does pick on me a lot. He's like, nobody wants to hear a story. I want to hear a story. What are you talking about, man? I will say though, we do agree on Kendrick Lamar. That is
Okay.
the one that we're like, we agree on him. We
And
wouldn't be
so
married if you didn't.
I was gonna say there's some deal breakers in there. Like it's it's so funny. So when we talk about music, we could talk about that. But I think me and your husband will get along very well because Young Dolph is one of my favorites. Key Glock, you talk about 3 6 Mafia, you talk about Moneybag Yo. I even there's sometimes I even adopted how they say it. Sometimes I say music. I say
Oh
music like
my
it's music. Music. And it's funny because Glow was doing like a book haul or something a couple weeks ago that she was talking about the books that she got. So country. But I'm like, she reading books. She good with me.
I love Miss Gloria Hallelujah. Like I love her. There is no Glorilla slander. I really love her energy is what it is. So I
Yeah,
will say that like obviously I'm a woman, so I'm feminine, but I'm not the most girliest of girls, right? Like I'm a little bit I got some oomph to me, even in comparison to like a lot of my friends are a lot softer and more feminine and more dainty than what I am. You know, I'm very much like, hey, where's my baseball cap and my Nikes? And let's go. And so I really appreciate the energy that she brings because she's much more tomboyish. And it's still like, hey, I'm a woman. I'm not trying to be a man, but I am in tune with that masculine energy that I have. And there's not a negative connotation behind that. So
yeah.
I like her. That's
Hey,
my
music ain't got like that's the thing. Like you said, to find out the music your husband listens to, and you're like, that's one of probably the best things when I go to a concert, and I don't really go anymore because they singing over these hooks and stuff, and they also charging the arm and leg and your firstborn kid for tickets. But you go there now and you look around, and I just love looking around. I'm like, huh. Never thought that person would listen to Currency or to Freddie Gibbs or to I was at a Jay-Z concert in Atlanta. I looked around. I was like, I don't see any black people.
That's crazy. But you know what's funny though is like I have a lot of friends from Atlanta and they all know. So I was born in New York, but I was raised in Florida. So I do have the tendency, all my family, my cousins are New Yorkers. So I have a tendency to lean more toward the New York side of just anything, whether it be like aesthetics, music, anything. It's kind of my thing. When I talk to my friends, even here in Florida, they're like, "Ain't nobody listening to Jay Z," and I'm like, "What? Like, what are you talking about?" Yes, like I get ostracized down here. No one, and I mean no one, wants to give me the aux cord ever because they're like, "No, she's gonna put that Jay Z on." Even when I was getting married, it was a joke because they were like, "Oh, if Melissa's picking the DJ, like we're gonna be listening to Jay Z the whole night." Like,
It's so funny how regionally, like you can have some people that are like, nah, that's just not what we listen to down here. And it's granted, it's what I mean, it's right in their aspect, but I just think there's so much great music and so many great artists out there that the more you listen to, the more well-rounded you are. And I'm a lover of music and I
mhm.
can learn to appreciate a lot of stuff, but it's so funny when, I'm from Denver, but like I've lived all around and I'm gonna put on a little bit of everything, but I'm also gonna cater to who I'm with. But you can't be mad at them putting on Jay-Z. You can't be mad at
No,
that.
you know, I will tell you too, like speaking of just unexpected things. So I grew up singing and I like opera. And so I like Andrea Bocelli. Like I
Mm,
listen to Andrea Bocelli, Luciano Pavarotti. I used to listen to Paul Potts. Like, so my husband, I don't think expected that. And I was like, oh, a lifelong dream of mine is to see Andrea Bocelli one day. Actually, he didn't even know who he was, honestly. He was like, who is that? And I was like, you don't know who he is? So he does this thing every Valentine's Day, every Valentine's like week. He does like a concert, and I finally got to go see Andrea Bocelli, and like I'm in tears. And my husband is, which if you were to judge us by way of looks, you would think that maybe he'd be the person listening to Andrea
yeah.
Bocelli and not me. Very similarly to how I was in the military, but people think he was in the military, and I'm like, nah, it was me. And so we go to this concert, and I am crying, I'm bawling the whole concert and he's singing in Italian. And hopefully, I hope you don't pick up the rain in here. But
If we do, that's fine. They know it's real. That's all.
he he sings a song finally in English, and after like 40 minutes, my husband is like, "Oh, this guy can sing." And I go, "Are you just not realizing that?" And he goes, well, yeah, like I can't tell. Like, he's speaking another language. I'm like, oh my God, like what? But yeah, no, I listen to a lot of just different stuff, and Andrea Bocelli is definitely he's up there.
We're gonna have to have you back because I feel like we can talk for another hour if we just start
No.
talking about music and concerts and life. Uh, but I love to tee it up for my guests to kind of close out the show, and I always like to ask you, what advice, since you are a mentor, what advice would you give for a young lady who wants to pursue either a career like you have, or just what advice would you give that young girl at 18, 21, 24, 26? What advice would you give them as they're on their life journey and going after the things that they want?
Now that I have been in therapy for the last like 3 months, 4 months, however many months since February, basically, I think about my younger self often. So this is a really good question. Um, Honestly, like, don't suppress your personality or parts of you. Don't compromise your integrity, and have faith in any ideas that you may have. And there's a mantra that I've been holding very close to my chest that I'll go ahead and share with all of you guys. And that mantra is, when you have a calling in life, um, that call is not a conference call. And because it's not a conference call, it's not meant for you to have to interpret or explain for others. So I would definitely say that as my closing note. Like, it's not a conference call, whatever your calling is. You take that call and you move forward with whatever assignment was given to you on that call.
When you have a call and it's not a conference call, oh my gosh, send the plate around, send the collection plate around on that side. Clean up, get up. Yeah, drop them in plate. And as we get out of here, Melissa, where can the listeners and viewers find you if they want to contact you or just listen and tune in and support the work that you're doing?
Across all platforms, you can find me at symbol Melissa with one L, two S's, Laboriel, LAB as in Bravo, ORI as in India, E as in Echo, L as in Lima. So at Melissa Laboriel. Damn, can you tell I was in the army? And then if you would like to listen to my podcast, the podcast is much easier than what my maiden last name was. It is Hard Wig Soft Life Podcast.com.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It's been great having you in here. You've been one of my favorite guests so far because you're the latest guest. But you also bring just a lot of value, and I know you dropped some bars for my listeners. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. We're out of here. That's another episode of Too Good to Be Drew. That is my guest, Melissa. Tune in. Everything will be in the show notes, and we'll catch you guys next time. Stay healthy.